Steelers Nation, Steelers Country, whatever you want to call it. I'm back. Mike had to fill in with me on Tuesday. He did his thing. And we have a special guest, a Super Bowl champion. So we're just going to get straight to it. You are watching Steelers Crazy Sick Podcast. Sammy.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Aaron Smith shields. Flacco, Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. I watched the NFL draft special you had. We're going to start bringing on some prospects, hopefully some guys soon that can protect Kenny Pickett. So
guys
that
could definitely take something from this guest coming in here, man. You know, the vets always like to help out the rooks. So definitely a guest today that mixes in well with our NFL draft profile for Steelers Worldwide. I know you went Steelers Country, Steelers Nation, Steelers Worldwide, baby.
Yeah, and we'll bring this special guest on, McKeesport's own, West Virginia's own, Super Bowl XL champion, Mike Logan.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, our pleasure, man. We're excited to have you. I know me and Mike were talking to you off air a little bit. You know, we're two new Ken guys. We've been best friends since, I guess, kindergarten. And we were talking about how Plexico Burris used to be my neighbor and how you came to Valley Middle School and talked to us. I think I was 14 years old then.
He was our hero.
Yeah. And still till this day, my mom has the picture of my brother, you, and Plexico hanging up on the fridge. So I just think this podcast here means a lot. And we just want to knack your brain about your career, everything you've been doing, and as well as the current Steeler team. So, but first and foremost, we just want to, go ahead and introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself, and we'll get to it.
Well, I appreciate you guys dating me right there, saying how old you were. You see these grays in the chin here right now. That lets me know that I'm getting up there in age. But I remember that. I remember that so vividly, coming out to Valley Middle School and doing stuff for Red Ribbon Week that you had out there with Miss Regas. I mean, that is amazing. And it's great to be a local guy who went on to, achieve his success. And then you hear these stories from, people in Pittsburgh about things off the field that you have done that have impacted them. That's the greatest feeling in the world. So, I remember them times coming out there to speak to you guys, man. That is so funny.
I'll tell you what, full circle type of world over here at the end of the day. We're chatting with Mike Logan here on the Steelers Crazy Sick Podcast. Let's talk a little bit about that career. You mentioned, obviously, being in Pittsburgh, a McKeesport kid, turned into a Pittsburgh Steeler. I can't imagine that's easy, man. You I'm sure had a lot of best friends, but you got even more best friends. You probably have cousins coming out the woodwork that you're not related to ultimately. Mike, good to see you. Where you been? I remember Terrell Pryor when he came out of Jeanette, of course, Ohio State kid, great, one of the best athletes I've ever seen around here. Right. I remember him specifically saying he doesn't want to play for the Steelers because everything that would come with that. I think obviously your experience, maybe without social media and things like that, a little different. But tell me about the challenges that came with that.
It was so much pressure, but you're not thinking about that. When I didn't have a chance to think about it. Back then, it's been my dream since I was 6 years old, playing in Whitaker Projects. I'm like, when I grow up, I want to play in the NFL and I want to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You don't think about what comes with it at that time. But lo and behold, when you get here and that dream comes to fruition, so many things that you never thought about comes into play. And it's not just the material things because people want you to buy them everything and all those things that come with it. It's the expectations. People seeing me play Little League football. They see me play high school football, go on to college and play football. And they think, this guy has been the best at his sport in every, phase of his career that he's went through. And you get to the professional level and they're like, why aren't you dominating like you used to dominate? So
you're not falling all over.
Yeah. You're getting more pressure at home than you're getting basically from your coaches and teammates. You know what I mean? They're like, yo, what you doing? I mean, there was a couple games when after we played, I came to get my hair cut in my local barbershop at Big Tom's Barbershop in the Hill, and they're like, dude, what happened? Like, you sucked out there, you know what I mean? And they're giving it to you raw because they're your family and they can, they can put an arm out and reach you and touch you. So they're not gonna hold back. So those expectations and that criticism coming from people that you know and grew up with can be harsh on you, man. It can weigh on you if you let it.
All right, West Virginia Mountaineer. What about the criticism from the fans around here? I'm talking about getting crap.
Listen, I got so much crap about going to West Virginia from being from Pittsburgh, and I had to let people know. I said, listen, I wanted to be a Pitt Panther. I'm gonna just be truthfully honest. Growing up in Pittsburgh and knowing the history and tradition, Tony Dorsett, Dan Marino, I was like, I think I'm going to Pitt. Pitt didn't offer me a full scholarship. They like extended an invited walk-on. At that time, they were in the Big East. They were the only school that didn't offer me a full ride. So I don't know if they took for granted like I was just going to come there regardless. I said, no, I'm going to go to West Virginia and I'm going to kick your tail for 4 years. And that's exactly what I did. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No doubt, man. You helped create a culture there. And I want to talk about, before I kick it to Jordan over there, I want to talk about that word culture, because that comes up a lot nowadays with the recent Steelers teams. And, listen, there's drama with every team, but of course it's magnified now in this world that we're living in. But you guys really seem to have such a strong culture and foundation there with Coach Cowher. Nothing against Coach Tomlin whatsoever. We love him. But that team, that Super Bowl team, tell me a little bit about just that word, the camaraderie, the relationships you guys had. We don't always get a insight about that. What we see obviously is everything on the field.
Right. I'm gonna tell you where that was rooted in, and it was rooted in Coach Cowher allowing us to do our thing. And he let us know. He said, listen, you guys have leaders in this locker room, you have leaders on the field. I don't mind your input. He let us kind of say, Coach, this is what we're comfortable with. This is what we like to play. This is what we like to do. This is what we like to eat. This is what we like to wear. You know what I mean? We had input in all that. And he said, listen, you guys can do it your way as long as it works. And as long as it's respectful and as long as it's in the confines of what we do. And until you do it wrong or I see it isn't working, then I'm going to step in. And for the most part, we were able to do that with the leaders that we had on our football team. We had Joey Porter as the mouthpiece. We had Alan Faneca as the guy who's going to come with the hard hat mentality every day. You got Jerome Bettis, who's the constant professional. You got guys who have respect and have done it and laid the groundwork that he had trust in, and he allowed us to do it our way. Now, there were times when things didn't work out, and he said, okay, now I got to step in. But the respect of a coach to have that much player input and put the responsibility on us and being able to handle it, that developed the culture. That made it what it was right there. And you want to play for a team like that. You want to play for guys like that. And you want to play for a coach who allows you to do that.
It's so interesting because I think we talked about it before, actually. Maybe it was Trey Essex who joined us, but everybody has this perception of Mike Tomlin being this player's coach and Bill Cowher being this hard-ass, like hard-nosed guy. Isn't that something that's so interesting?
It's definitely interesting. I mean, if you got to know Bill on the level that we did, I kind of knew him from just being from Pittsburgh, and I would run into him sometime when his daughters was playing basketball. I would be watching Swin Cash, who went to my high school, and I would run into him, or I would see his wife, and I would go up to him and speak to him and everything. And you knew that he was a hard-nosed coach. But, in the locker room, behind the closed doors of what the public sees, this guy was awesome for us. I mean, he was one of those guys who said, listen, I don't even want to be in the locker room, the real literal locker room per se. Handle it accordingly. That's y'all space to go in there and be free and do what you want to do and be who you are. And he was like, if I have to come into your space, which is the player space, then there's probably an issue or something wrong. But I want you guys to be who you are authentically in that locker room. And that's what made us have such a great rapport with him. His door was open. We knew that. We knew that it wasn't going to be a one-sided conversation when you went in there. We had extreme dialogue with Coach Cowher, and that allowed us to be who we truly were.
Yeah. So on that note, that was perfect lead into my next question is just talk about, your thoughts on the current team, the past few years. Obviously, I'm sure you're still, a Steeler fan and watching the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say when people ask me because I didn't play for Coach Tomlin. I retired actually the year he came in. I had a long talk with him though. My contract was just ending the year he came in to sign, and I ended up talking to him and getting a pretty good relationship with him. Seeing his kids out there running track, and I used to coach another track team, so I would interact with him a lot. I see some similarities in Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin, but I don't know how he structures his locker room and how that works out. But on the field, I think that he has so much pressure of everyone saying, well, he's been given a Bill Cowher team who just went to the Super Bowl and all of those things. And then him trying to implement his foundation, which is so hard to do in a franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers because they only had 3 coaches. You know what I mean? You've only had 3 coaches who've done it a certain way and what the fans expect from him how to run his team. And he's trying to come in and run his team the way he wants to do it. Of course, it's going to take some time to really develop those things and implement all the stuff that he wants to do. But they had success. They've had success. Now, they haven't had the Pittsburgh fan success that we expect out of them these last couple of years, which is going to the playoffs, winning a playoff game, and contending to go to a Super Bowl in the last 5 to 10 years. You know what I mean? There's a lot of heavy expectations from the fans, but he's proven himself to be a winner, and he's had some production out of players on the field. We've had players going to the Pro Bowl every year, some of the best in the leagues at their positions. Cam Hayward, Minka Fitzpatrick, even Antonio Brown. He's had some successful players in there, and you can't take away from what he's been able to do in this league for the tenure that he's been able to do it. I'm sure there's a lot of franchises who would have loved to have a coach who's able to put them in those positions that we've been in over the past decade.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to throw this question. I know you were drafted by the Jaguars, correct?
Yeah.
So explain to me is there a difference because in Pittsburgh the standard is the standard? Like what's the mentality like? Because and I know that you probably still have love for Jaguar Nation.
Oh, no doubt.
Shout out Trevor Lawrence.
No doubt.
Young quarterback. And my next question will be about Kenny Pickett, but just talk about is there any difference, similarity? I mean, I know it's the NFL, but just talk about the operation a little bit. And I'm sure that the Steelers, operate a little bit different than most NFL teams.
Well, it was a unique experience for me to go to Jacksonville and be drafted by the Jaguars because I think it was only like their second or third year in existence.
Yeah.
They were an expansion team.
Right.
So we were basically learning on the fly how to be a franchise down in Jacksonville.
Wow.
I mean, connecting with the fan base, getting the community all involved, trying to, put a
build
product
from
on
the
the
ground
field
up.
that was worthy to be loved by the fans. And you know what, though? We had some instant satisfaction right away because we put together some very good football teams down there during the 4 years that I was there. So winning kind of generates, some success in different aspects of the franchise. So we had that, but you can tell they were still trying to get their structure together. Like when I came to Pittsburgh, I knew what it was because of the historic tradition of who they were. So in Jacksonville, we were kind of still putting it together. But I will say we had a coach who was so on top of his business. And I didn't always like it at times. Me and Tom Coughlin butted heads quite
Hope
often.
you weren't late for a meeting.
Oh, bro, listen. You're talking about fines for not wearing the right socks. And
wow.
It was so and those are the things that I'm talking about and trying to get together, trying to run an organization. He had come from Boston College and he was trying to now coach men who were coming into this new franchise and they're like, this ain't college. We're professionals. And he was like so hard-nosed and disciplined that he didn't care about that. All he wanted to do was win. So in order to get us to conform to kind of what he was doing, we started winning, and we were like, well, we're just going to do it. This is the formula, you know what I mean? Until it wasn't the formula. When you start losing, then things start to change a little bit. You start to have issues come up.
Yeah, so I have one more question before I swing it over to Mike. I just wanted to get your thoughts. I mentioned Trevor Lawrence, another young quarterback that the Steelers now have is Kenny Pickett. I covered Pitt, for about 4 years and was around. I was in shock when they drafted him, and I really think that, the progress towards the end of the year was just amazing. And I really think he has what it takes. I'm not saying, again, I say this on every podcast, I'm not saying he has to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he definitely has what it takes to, I think, win a few Super Bowls for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's just my take. I just wanted to get yours.
I was impressed with him, towards the end of the year and how he handled things, being that they were in the position that they were in. The one thing that really surprised me was his leadership. It seemed that he was able to command, his huddle to make his input and voice heard to veterans on the team, and to almost command that respect that the position comes along with. And you think about that. That was something that Ben Roethlisberger had to do with us when he came in. It was, they drafted him, but Tommy Maddox was still the quarterback then. And then when Tommy got hurt and he came in, there were guys who were like, we don't know how this is going to work out. Is this guy going to be able to lead us? But what did I say before? Winning has a way of curing things that or issues and making them not issues anymore. And what did Big Ben do come in? He came in and just started winning. So it's easy to rally around a young guy and give him support once you start winning. And I think Kenny was able to pull through in a couple of those games. And if he's able to carry that momentum from last year and how they finished up the season into the next year, I think the field is just open for him to just progress and grow. And I still think that he'll have some growing pains, just watching him. But as he develops come year 3, 4, 5, I think we'll see some outstanding things. But now they have to definitely build around him. Yeah. They have to make sure that running game opens up the field for him. I think he'll start to get better at making all the throws on the tree on a professional level. And I think that'll come in due time.
And this coming from a West Virginia Mountaineer. I had
quick little funny story though. I went down to Atlanta for the Steeler game. And I have a lot of family down there, and there's a plethora of Pittsburgh Steelers fans down there. Mm-hmm. And we were sitting in one of the on the field suites right before you go into the tunnel. And after the game, Kenny Pickett comes over, man. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know who was up there, but he gave his gloves to my nephew who was sitting up there. And he's like ecstatic. He's going crazy. He's like, man, I got Kenny Pickett's gloves. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, listen, your uncle's a Super Bowl champion, man. What about me? Celebrate me a little bit. Celebrate the West Virginia guy a little bit. But no, that was awesome, man. And kudos for him for being able to be in that role. Because being the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, man, it's a demanding job. Mm-hmm. It comes with so many expectations, not only on the field, but off the field. Being a leader in your community, being a Pittsburgh Steeler is different to me. When you talk about the difference in franchises of being in the community than other franchises, I think, because here you're a part of Pittsburgh when you become a Pittsburgh Steeler. Mm-hmm. Regardless of where you're from, regardless of who you played for, you're going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, and people are going to remember you as a Pittsburgh Steeler. If you came here and played only a short period of your career or a long period, they're going to treat you as a Steeler. Like you said, the standard's the standard. The Steeler, in the black and gold is going to be for life.
You're going to have to get your nephew to fire up some Madden 2003.
Hey, I'm going to have to get him to get some of that Tecmo Bowl and NFL Blitz.
Yeah.
I love that.
Even better.
Yeah, man. I had to buy my kids. My in-laws brought my kids an NFL Blitz with all the old teams on there and everything. I'm like, don't use the new teams. Go back to the old teams. Leave your dads on.
Hey, the Super Bowl team. That's all you got to say.
That's it, man. That's it.
Hey, we're sitting down with Mike Logan here on the Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Of course, check us out on YouTube and subscribe as well. Mike, I want to talk about something that we chatted a little bit about off air. It's something that generally isn't easy to talk about, but I think breaking the stigma is incredibly, incredibly important. And I'll kind of just let you take the floor from here, man. But we talked about mental health a little bit.
Right. Yeah, man. I really had some eye-opening things happen to me over the course of the last 2 years. I contracted COVID early in 2020. And, that was the thing we were dealing with at the time. And I didn't think too much of it until I had to think about it, because it severely, hampered me and hit me a little different than the way it hit my wife. And my reaction to it kind of got me thinking and put life in a different perspective for me. I ended up recovering, but coming out of it, I really started to suffer from severe anxiety. I mean, to the point where I was isolating myself. I didn't want to speak to people. I do a lot of public speaking. I couldn't even do that to the point that it got where I was having anxiety attacks. And I truly didn't know what it was. I never gave anxiety the respect it deserved, because I didn't think that it could shut me down the way that it did. And I had to go into therapy, intense therapy. I had to learn about anxiety and what it was. I said, well, I've been anxious plenty of times. I played football at the highest level. There were times when I'm out there thinking and overthinking and causing myself anxiety. But I had to really, truly learn about what it was. And once I did and admitted that I suffered from it, and that was the big thing. We talk about the stigmas of people not wanting to acknowledge it, not wanting to address it, and not putting the work to really overcome it, because I was like, man, I'm a professional athlete. I'll get over this. And I truly couldn't get over it. So I really had to seek some help from licensed professionals who deal with that, who helped me understand it. And I tell you, it has been the greatest thing that I've probably ever done in my life for myself. Getting that help, speaking to a therapist, understanding what it is, and acknowledging that it can sit you down, and I had to think about something that I was told, and I talked on a panel with about 12 years ago. It might have been longer than that. Shamiqua Holesclaw, WNBA star, invited me to an Active Minds conference. And we just they were talking about mental health. And I was like, it was the first time that it dawned on me that when you're injured or you're sick, you go to a doctor, you go try to, if you got a ligament tore, you go to a surgeon, you get it fixed, you go through all the physical therapy and rehab to get yourself back out there. I never took time during my entire career to work on my brain, my mental health, the biggest muscle that you have. You know what I mean? Like, I never took time when I felt a certain way or I felt, down, to address that. And I finally did that. And it's been the most liberating, freeing thing that I've ever done in my life. So I'll never suffer again. If I'm feeling a certain type of way and I feel that I'm not right, I'm going to seek, medical attention, and I'm going to do that. And it's just something that we have to get over. So I've been preaching my testimony for the last year and a half. And I'm just amazed by the amount of people who've either messaged me, inboxed me, texted me and said, man, I've been suffering in silence for so many years. I'm glad that you spoke up. So I'm willing to talk about it at any time now. And it's a part of my testimony. It's a part of who I am now. I'll definitely speak out and advocate for anybody to get the help that they need mentally.
Mike, thanks for sharing that incredibly transparent, important message. I think
you helped probably so many people, like I said off air, that you didn't, you were just telling, your story. And I'm sure it really spoke to a lot of people. I think that's awesome.
I think people see these athletes sometimes and they're like, this Super Bowl champion, they're like, this guy who's had this life, or, I think about recently guys like Ben Simmons, and there's a lot of college people that's taken off in the past years due to mental health, and people will comment and be like, this guy has it made. What is he anxious about? People just don't,
Man, bro, it's tough, man. I mean, I had to look in the mirror at myself though. And I had to beef myself up to really speak out about it and admit that it was going on to me and that I couldn't do anything within myself to get better. And once I realized that and spoke up about it and got the help, I actually feel stronger now. You know what I mean? As opposed to feeling weaker then when I'm dealing with it, because you are weak. When you're suffering in silence and you're by yourself and you can't get over it, you start to beat yourself up and make it worse because you're like, man, I'm really down. I can't do nothing about it. I'm not strong enough to overcome this. But I realized I needed help. Just like when I tore ligaments in both of my knees, I had posterior reconstruction. I couldn't do it on my own. I had to go to a surgeon. I had to go to physical rehab to build myself back up. And once I understood that and was content with that information and how I felt, I was able to free myself from it.
Once again, thanks so much for sharing. We're happy that you're able to go back now, or not to go back, but to move forward and be able to public speak again and hang out and do events. So tell us, you got an event coming up, right?
Yes. I've been kind of just getting my feet wet again, man, getting back out there. I do public speaking on a regular. I did life skills mentoring at University Prep in the Hill District. And I'm always just trying to, share my testimony. I'm going to speak to Woodland Hills Men of Valor program next week. I'll be speaking at Westinghouse, the program, next week about, mentoring and life skills education. So I'm getting back out there, man. But I'm hosting an event at Zia's Restaurant in Monroeville, February 22nd.
It's like 10 minutes from my house, so I'm definitely
bro, you got to come through. You got to come through, man. We're me and one of the Little League coaches, Khalil Morris, and Jerome Bettis' brother, John Bettis. We've been doing some things and hosting parties, but we're having like a happy hour with Blazers and over bourbon, what they're calling it. So just come through, man. We'll be there. We're going to have a good time. I'll be sure to sharing my testimony with some people and just having a nice time, man. So if you guys want to come through, it's posted on all my social media. I'm at mlogan31 on Twitter, Instagram, Mike Logan on Facebook. I have a personal page and a fan page.
I have to ask you real quick, that when you step out for these events, does the ring come?
So I do bring the ring out for those special times, So
yeah.
and I'm pretty generous with my Super Bowl ring. My wife says, you're just so, giving, but I feel like once you're a Pittsburgh Steeler and you accomplish things, it's a part of the city's success that you have. So I like sharing my Super Bowl ring. The one thing I will say, everybody who there's always one person who says, "Oh, I'm gonna take the ring, I'm gonna run off with it. You can't catch me." The last person that did that dropped my Super Bowl ring. It cracked. The little the emblem on the top of it is like put on it with the diamonds and the trophies actually came off.
Wow.
So I had to stick it back on. I actually have to send it off. I'm sending it off after the Super Bowl and all that stuff over to get it, re-engraved back into the stone. But I did a little makeshift fix for it now. So I'll definitely be donning it next Thursday.
Wow.
Love to hear it. It can't be. I tell you what, Jordan and I had Jeff Reed on one of our tailgates. You want to talk about passing around Super Bowl rings? This guy was handing them to everybody and their mother. I'm surprised those Super Bowl rings didn't get dropped in a drain or something.
Yeah. He told us he had insurance on him. So
hey, Jeff is the ultimate tailgate and host, man. He is. So, I ran into him after the Atlanta game outside of the stadium. And he just heard my voice. And I hear somebody saying, "No, what's up, man? Where are you?" And he's like running over to me, man. We had a big hug and talked for about 20 minutes, man. That is my dude right there. That is my ace, man. Straight up.
What a guy. I tell you what, you're a great guy as well, man. This has been such a pleasure to sit down with you at mlogan31 right there. Talking great stories, Steeler memories, and other important issues. Mike Logan, he's a Super Bowl champion, and more importantly, he's a champion off the field with life skills as well. Mike, appreciate you. Hope we'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon, man. Appreciate
Definitely,
it.
man. When the season gets rolling, just hit me up, man. I'm here. I got 2 young kids now, so I'm always ripping and running with them. I'm actually in their room right now, sitting on this little chair, just to kind of get a little break away because you would hear them in the background right now. But hit me up, man. I'll be happy to come on anytime to talk talk to you guys about football and life off the field.
We appreciate it, man.
No doubt,
We'll
man.
see you
Take
soon.
care.
Good stuff, JY. Profound stuff.
It's just crazy how life, just comes at you. 1 minute he's speaking at our school, at Valley Middle School, and the next minute here we have the Steelers Crazy Sick podcast, and he's on here. It's more than football, and I think that's the most amazing thing. But I think that we wanted to end it and give our Super Bowl picks and our new sponsor, our partnership with MyBookie. So if you want to rattle that off, and then we can give our Super Bowl predictions. How about that?
First of all, I didn't do this on Tuesday. I was having so much fun, caught up in the moment with my draft prospect, Deion Henley. If you didn't check that out, awesome show. Another great dude. Hopefully he becomes a Steeler and can win a Super Bowl ring.
He can replace Devin Bush, I think.
Yeah, he's so fun and such a smart kid. But I forgot. I was so excited I forgot the title. So I think you did too. Sammy, run it.
It's time for Sick Picks, brought to you by MyBookie.
You asked for it, they listened. MyBookie designed a unique deposit bonus that lets you cash in and cash out quick. This is a unique deposit bonus for sports bettors like Jordan and I who want to focus on what to bet and not a payout sweat. Do us a favor. Make your first deposit today with promo code SICKPICKS. It's right there on the bottom of the screen. If you're watching, SICKPICKS. Wager your deposit amount once. You're eligible to cash out. There's no better week to sign up for this than this week. It's the freaking Super Bowl. Yeah. If you want a sports book that gives you the most for your money, bet on the big game. MyBookie pregame. Live lines. The thousands of Super Bowl props that I'm going to bet. Everything from literally the coin toss to the anthem, the color of the Gatorade that's going to be dumped on the winning coach, which I'll give out shortly. I can't tell you who's exactly going to win the Super Bowl, even though I'm going to try right after this.
I can.
But I know where I'm placing my bets, and that is MyBookie. Anytime, anywhere, anything, MyBookie. All right, this is our last show before the Super Bowl. This is our last show, technically, during NFL season. It's kind of depressing when you put it that way.
Yeah.
I will start with you. I went through everything last night, made my final decisions, predictions. I'm going to hit you with it after yours, but give me a champ.
Yeah. So again, I've been kind of hard on the Eagles all year. They're great on both sides of the ball at every position, but everyone said the Cincinnati Bengals were going to be in the Super Bowl. It was Burrowhead Stadium. Well, I'm here to tell you that Patrick Mahomes, as long as he's healthy, which I think that he is, I think that the Chiefs come out. I think that it's going to come down to the final 2 minutes, but I think that the Chiefs pull it out. I just think that this is Patrick Mahomes is just that dude. It's that simple. I think it's awesome that both of the Kelseys are in the Super Bowl. I'm sure that I know that their mom is very proud, and I think that that's so awesome.
Pretty cool.
But I am going to say my final score is going to be 31-27 Chiefs.
Respect it. And I had a very similar projection in my head just a few days back. This kind of happened to me 2 weeks ago before AFC Championship between the Bengals and the Chiefs, where right away when I knew that matchup was going to happen, I said Bengals are taking it. They're hot, playing good football. And then I kind of marinated for a little bit, and I said, you know what? The Chiefs are going to win this game. Patrick Mahomes backing them. Obviously, they ended up pulling it out in a tight one. And you already said it. This is going to be a really close game. Yeah. Did the same thing this past week. I had the Chiefs. I've let it marinate. And now it's turned into a Philly steak and cheese for me. And I think it is a little bit of head versus heart here. Listen, they're in the state. I don't think we root for Philly teams all that often. But at the end of the day, there's not that big of a rivalry between the Steelers and Eagles. The two cities, yes, there are. Anyway, I'll give you my actual pick, all right? So I have settled on Eagles 27, Chiefs 23.
Wow.
Okay? So that's an Eagles cover, and I think technically the under in terms of sick picks on MyBookie. For me, it's the Patrick Mahomes is the best player on the field, but the Eagles are the more well-rounded team to me by a long shot. offensive line is the best in football, maybe the best we've seen in a long time. Their defense is absolutely ferocious. That defensive line, former Steeler Javon Hargrave, anchoring it with Fletcher Cox holding it down. Just a really good all-around team. It's going to be an absolute war. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I think ultimately, like when Pat Mahomes played that Bucs team a few years ago in the Super Bowl and they lost because the Bucs were a more complete team with Tom Brady, really it was the pieces around Tom Brady. I think that's kind of what's going to happen, although it's not going to be a blowout. So 27-23, Eagles. That's Eagles cover and the under. Miles Sanders, MVP for me. That's it, and that's all. Let's see what happens.
Wow, I don't know, man. We finally disagree on something.
I like it.
I'm gonna jump off here and get on my bookie and put together my parlay, and I'm gonna let you evaluate. How's that sound?
I got you.
All right, this has been another episode of Steelers Crazy Sick Podcast. I'm JY. This is Mike, and our special guest, Mike Logan. We appreciate you. And, yeah, man, we're here all year round, so don't change that dial. Sammy?
Check out Day and Henley. Check out that interview.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.